Good evening. This is the news at 6, your daily roundup of all that has been happening across India and the world. I'm Ishan Russell, and our focus tonight will be on the Aam Aadmi Party, where the internal squabble really got ugly today at the National Executive meet. Prashant Bhushan and Yogendra Yadav have been kicked out of the National Executive of the party. More on that and reporter updates we will be getting you. But first, the headlines we're tracking right now. Saina Nehwal creates history as she grabs the #1 spot in world badminton, is the first Indian woman to do so. Aam Aadmi Party throws 4 dissident leaders out of the party's national executive, accuses them of indulging in anti-party activities. IRNSS 1D launched successfully from Sriharikota. Satellite will pave the way for the country's own navigation system, which will be on par with the GPS of the US. And Nigerians vote to elect then ex-president, incumbent President Goodluck Jonathan, facing strong opposition from rival Muhammadu Buhari. The top story this evening is really good news. Saina Nehwal has created history, becoming the first Indian woman to be ranked world #1 in badminton. Saina achieved the feat even before playing her Indian Open semi-final against Japan's Yui Hashimoto. The top spot for Saina came after All England badminton champion Carolina Marin lost her semi-final match against Ratnachok Intanon in the same tournament. The Indian ace will stay at the #1 spot, irrespective of the result of her match today. Before Nehwal, Prakash Padukone was the sole Indian to be ranked world #1.
This is a very proud moment for all the Indians, because this is for the first time that any Indian badminton player in the history has been ranked as #1. This is official ranking, and which is a great achievement for her.
A turbulent meeting marred by protests and chaos. That's what the Aam Aadmi Party's National Council meet was like today. And in the end, 4 dissident leaders, Yogendra Yadav, Prashant Bhushan, Professor Anand Kumar and Ajit Jha, were shown the door out of the party's national executive. The party accused the 4 leaders of being involved in anti-party activities, a charge vehemently denied by the 4, who were also among the founding members of the Aam Aadmi Party. Bhushan and Yadav even alleged that the meeting today was marked by hooliganism and the presence of goons. They accused Arvind Kejriwal and his loyalists of beating their supporters and using bouncers to drag them out of the venue. Both leaders said the voting at the National Council meet was scripted. They also criticized the party's move to suddenly remove its internal Lokpal, Admiral Ramdas, from the post, asking him not to attend the National Council meet. And our correspondent Anu Diwan has been tracking all the developments at the Aam Aadmi Party National Council meet, and she joins us live. Anu, take us through what's been happening through the day. The big development, of course, as expected, Yogendra Yadav and Prashant Bhushan have been sidelined. They've been kicked out of the National Executive, but there were still 59 people who voted, who did not go with this kind of a vote. So, as far as the fissures within the Aam Aadmi Party go, is it still united behind Arvind Kejriwal? And what is the next move for Prashant Bhushan and Yogendra Yadav and their supporters?
Definitely, Ishan, since morning only slogans were raised against Yogendra Yadav and Prashant Bhushan when they arrived at the National Executive meet that they should be removed from the party. And soon after Arvind Kejriwal's opening speech, they were soon removed from the party with voice vote. Yogendra Yadav, after coming out, claimed that they were not even listened. So the supporters who supported Aam Aadmi Party were around 249, while who were in favor of Yogendra Yadav and Prashant Bhushan, the 4 people, Ajit Jha and Dharamveer Gandhi, came out with Yogendra Yadav and Prashant Bhushan, and they alleged that they were manhandled during the National Council meet. So they also raised that they were not being listened, that what's their point exactly is. Gopal Rai, who chaired the meeting, he simply called on the resolution and asked for voting. Now the question here comes, what next for the party for these rebellions? Basically now the party is left with just two options. Either they remain simple as a volunteer. If the party feels that they are going to damage the party image, they can move to a disciplinary committee, which can be headed by Ashutosh and Dilip Pandey. So they can now take any action, whether they will remain in the party or not, as they've already been removed after Parliamentary Affairs Committee, now from the National Executive. Now the question is, what the next step party will take. If the party wants them to remain as just a volunteer, they can remain as a volunteer. But if the party feels they are going to further damage the party's image, they can move to disciplinary committee, which can be headed by Ashutosh and Dilip Pandey, and they will decide the fate of Yogendra Yadav and Prashant Bhushan in the party's future.
All right, but as far as, the AAP's volunteer base is quite huge. There was a lot of idealism associated with the party, and we can see huge crowds behind you. It's generated a lot of interest. Even the people who would not be allowed to vote in that National Council meeting, a lot of AAP supporters still outside. So what's the mood over there? What's the sense that you're getting? How has this gone down to the AAP volunteers?
Basically, Ishan, this move that the Yogendra Yadav and Prashant Bhushan, which they are claiming that they are manhandled, is basically disappointing volunteers, but also volunteers seems to little bit in favor of Arvind Kejriwal. After the tape being released, audio clip being released, it's also the question that volunteers are thinking. Volunteers are really disappointed, but they are not also agreeing upon what Yogendra Yadav and Prashant Bhushan are being doing, or are being keeping their voices to spoil over the party. So the maximum volunteers were in support of Arvind Kejriwal, while very few of them were in favor of Yogendra Yadav and Prashant Bhushan. Being this type of act was not acceptable in the party, so volunteers on this note were really disappointed that what is being happening in the party and what the party is really moving on. Now the National Council meet has ended. Now it's bringing some hope for the volunteers that now the party will be moving to further development. Like party is going for the state elections and all, where volunteers will be given a chance. So it's a matter now. The matter comes here only of what volunteers will be getting as the opportunity.
All right. Anu, also very quickly, what's the next move for Yogendra Yadav and Prashant Bhushan? What are they saying they'll do now?
Exactly, Ishan. Now Yogendra Yadav and Prashant Bhushan side, on their side it's coming that they are going to hold a meeting at Prashant Bhushan residence, and they will soon after that decide whether they are going to lodge a FIR against them, or there is some other step like Prashant Bhushan can move to court, he can file a PIL and ask for videography evidences, as the party is claiming that they have all the videograph evidence against the whole National Council meet, and they can release whenever it's necessary and whenever they feel it's okay to release now. So now it's come after Yogendra Yadav and Prashant Bhushan hold a meeting. What is their next move? They said they either can move to they can move to court, or they can file a FIR where they can ask for the videograph evidence that they were manhandled during the National Council meet.
All right, Anu, we'll leave it over there. In fact, thank you very much for joining us with that update, and we will be keeping a track of those developments happening on the Aam Aadmi Party front. But what did Yogendra Yadav and Prashant Bhushan have to say? Well, listen in.
मैं जानता हूं हमारी पार्टियों की मीटिंग हमेशा वॉलंटियर कंडक्ट करते हैं। आज हॉल में एक व्यक्ति नहीं था जिसको हम पहचानते थे। प्रोफेशनल बॉक्सेस लगाए गए थे हॉल के अंदर, और जैसे ही इन्होंने रमजान चौधरी ने कहा दोनों की बातें सुन लीजिए, इनको घसीटते हुए हॉल से बाहर लेके गए, इनको मारा। जो कह रहे हैं ना कि ऐसी बात गलत है, आप देख लीजिए, आपके सामने बैठे हुए हैं।
कल जो अरविंद का जो स्टिंग आया, जिसमें वो कह रहे हैं कि इन लोगों को लात मार के बाहर निकाल दिया जाना चाहिए, उसी पूरी प्रक्रिया का आज षड्यंत्र इस नेशनल काउंसिल की मीटिंग में रचा गया। ऐसे गुंडों को यहाँ लाया गया जो कि आज कुछ हमारे एमएलएस कहे जाते हैं, वो वहाँ गुंडागिरी कर रहे थे, लोगों को पीट रहे थे।
बहुत अफसोस की बात है, हमारी पार्टी ने अभी बड़ा शानदार काम किया दिल्ली की जनता की मोहब्बत के साथ, लेकिन हमने उस मोहब्बत को आज चिथड़ा कर दिया।
राष्ट्रीय परिषद ने सामूहिक रूप से कोई फैसला लिया है और 247 लोगों के सिग्नेचर हैं। 8 लोगों ने खिलाफ, वहां पे बैठे हुए लोगों ने उनके पक्ष में भी वोट दिया है 8 लोगों ने। तो अगर वो 8 लोग हमारे किसी दबाव में होते, और जैसा वो बता रहे हैं बाउंसर और मारपीट हम कर रहे हैं, 8 लोगों ने तो उनके पक्ष में वोट दिया, कुछ साथ।
Now, India successfully launched the fourth of a series of regional navigation satellites, the IRNSS-1D, from Sriharikota today. It would pave the way for the country's own navigation system, which will be on par with the GPS or Global Positioning System of the United States. The Indian Regional Navigational Satellite Systems applications include terrestrial and maritime navigation, disaster management, vehicle tracking and fleet management, navigation aid for hikers and travelers, visual and voice navigation for drivers. The launch, originally scheduled for March 9th, was deferred after an irregularity was found in the telemetry transmitter. Well, time for a very quick break right now. Lots more on the other side to do. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching the news at 6. Now, on a day when strong reactions are coming in from the opposition over the centre's decision to re-promulgate the land ordinance, Congress President Sonia Gandhi visited her constituency to meet farmers. In Raebareli, she interacted with farmers and assured them compensation for their crops damaged due to unseasonal rain. She also visited Amethi, Rahul Gandhi's constituency. Several opposition parties, including the Congress, have been trying to create a consensus among farmers against the land ordinance.
Congress President Sonia Gandhi in her parliamentary constituency Raebareli to meet farmers affected by unseasonal rains. Incessant rains in the first week of this month damaged crops in Uttar Pradesh, Haryana and many other northern states. Standing rabi crops like wheat and soybean suffered huge losses in the northern plains of the country.
बहुत परेशान है तो सर्वे जल्दी से जल्दी हो और फिर सही मुआवजा उन लोगों को मिले इसीलिए हम बात करेंगे सरकार से।
सोनिया जी आई थी और उन्होंने बोला कि हम अभी भेजाएंगे कार्यकर्ताओं को, वो देख सरकार से राहत दिलाएंगे और यहाँ सरकार से बात करेंगे हम।
सोनिया गांधी ने कहा हम किसान को राहत दिलाएंगे जो नुकसान हुआ है।
Sonia Gandhi has been meeting affected farmers since last week when she visited Haryana and Rajasthan. The visits assume significance as opposition parties prepare to take on the government on the land ordinance. These visits are being seen as the opposition reaching out to the farming community against the proposed changes.
If they are reintroducing it, re-promulgating it, that will be, questioning the wisdom of the common man and the farmer, and they will have to pay a big price for that. And they may even go for a joint session. They are bent upon passing an anti-farmer law just for the benefit of few corporates.
सरकार कॉर्पोरेट के हक में है और किसानों के खिलाफ है और ये मन की बात भी कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर की हो रही है। इसलिए जनता दल परिवार ऊंचे पैमाने पर ब्लॉक से लेकर के दिल्ली तक नए तरीके से इसके विरुद्ध आंदोलन तेज करेगा।
The government on Friday re-promulgated the land ordinance as the earlier ordinance is set to lapse on April 5th. The land acquisition amendment bill was passed in Lok Sabha but got stuck in Rajya Sabha as the government is in minority there. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Time now for all the other national news and updates in Nationwide. Swine flu deaths across the country crossed the 2,000 mark, while the number of people afflicted with the deadly disease crossed 33,000. Gujarat is the worst hit state with the death toll at 424 since January, while Madhya Pradesh has registered 296 swine flu deaths. 482 patients have tested positive in Jammu and Kashmir, with 7 suspected deaths from the contagious disease. 3 people were killed while 7 others were injured in an explosion at the factory in Ramgarh district of Jharkhand. The explosion took place when labourers had gone for lunch at the factory. According to eyewitnesses, the blast happened when an explosive material kept inside the factory caught fire after lightning struck. 2 active members of a Maoist outfit surrendered before police in Odisha today. Both Maoists were working as area commanders of the Kalimela committee in the Malkangari division. The Maoists surrendered and decided to give up arms and join the social mainstream. They would now get help from police to get back to normal life, apart from other facilities as per government rules. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that the objective of his 3-nation tour to France, Germany and Canada is to support India's national economic agenda and create job opportunities for the country's youth. The Prime Minister made the announcement via social media on Saturday. He also said that he will try to promote India as a manufacturing hub and seek greater involvement of these countries in the Make in India initiative. Modi will visit France in his first leg of the tour on the 9th of April. He will leave for Germany on the 12th of April, where he will jointly inaugurate the Hanover Messe with German Chancellor Angela Merkel. He will conclude the tour by visiting Canada from April 4th to 16th. Time for a very quick break right now, but we will be right back with lots more. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching the news at 6. Now, Nigeria went to the polls today to elect a new president, with incumbent Goodluck Jonathan facing a strong challenge from Muhammadu Buhari. It is said to be the most closely fought election since the end of military rule in 1999. The election was delayed by 6 weeks to allow the army to recapture territory from militant Islamist Boko Haram. Security is tight in Nigeria in wake of an Islamist insurgency. Few untoward incidents were reported amid polling, but officials said it was largely peaceful. Nigeria has 56.7 million eligible voters.
No political ambition can justify violence or the shedding of the blood of our people. I reaffirm once again my personal preparedness to ensure fair play during the elections and to deploy the resources and institutions of state only in the manner prescribed by our laws. Let me warn, however, that as President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, I am under oath to protect the lives of all Nigerians and the security of our country at all times.
Now in Yemen, meanwhile, the Houthi rebels are making further advances despite a second day of Saudi-led coalition airstrikes. The United Nations has already begun the evacuation of its staff from Yemen's capital, Sana'a. India is also making a broad plan to evacuate the 3,700-odd Indians in Yemen.
Yemen descending further into chaos as Shiite Muslim Houthi rebels gained their first foothold on the country's Arabian Sea coast by seizing the port of Shakra, 10 kilometers east of Aden, a threat to President Mansour Hadi's last refuge. All this despite 2 days of airstrikes carried out by Saudi Arabia-led 10-nation coalition. The rebels are backed by Iran.
تحركات القوات ما بين شمال وجنوب اليمن وتجمعات البرية التي حاولت الميليشيات الحوثية حشدها في شمال اليمن جنوب الحدود السعودية.
As the rebels close in, Arab leaders are meeting in Egypt to discuss the escalating crisis. Hadi is also expected to address this summit. Meanwhile, Yemen's foreign minister has said that a dialogue with Houthi rebels is also on the cards. Meanwhile, Lebanon's Shiite Muslim Hezbollah leader has condemned the Saudi-led airstrikes, asking these to be halted immediately.
فرصة دائما لذلك نحن دائما شددنا على مسألة أن الحوار كان مطلوبا ولا يزال لكن الحوار المتساوي الذي لا يستقوي فيه أحد على أحد الحوار الذي يكون تحت ظل.
As Yemen's security situation wobbles, the UN has begun evacuating its staff from capital Sana'a. India is also considering the possibility of airlifting stranded Indians from the war-hit Yemen. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj has said that 2 ships have been sent to Yemen for a rescue mission. Saudi warships have already evacuated Yemeni diplomats from the country. The Houthi rebels have said that their aim is to replace Hadi's government, which they accuse of being corrupt. They also want to implement the outcomes of a national dialogue that was convened after President Ali Abdullah Saleh was forced to hand over power in 2011. Protesters turned out in thousands in the Yemeni city of Taiz on Friday supporting the Saudi-led airstrikes. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
German Wings co-pilot Andreas Lubitz, suspected of deliberately crashing the passenger plane in the French Alps, was undergoing psychiatric treatment. Lubitz told his ex-girlfriend that one day everyone will know my name and remember me. These were his words. Now the German daily Bild published an interview with a woman who said she was in a relationship with Andreas Lubitz in 2014. The co-pilot also told her that he was in psychiatric treatment. The man, French prosecutors believe, locked himself alone in the cockpit of the German Wings Airbus on Tuesday and steered it into a mountain, killing all 150 people on board. German authorities said on Friday they had found torn-up sick notes showing that the co-pilot was suffering from an illness that should have grounded him on the day of the tragedy. Now, all the other international news and updates in Global Buzz. Israel's President Rivlin and former Indonesian presidents today paid their last respects to Singapore's former Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew on the final day of his lying in state at the Parliament House. Thousands of people queued up to remember the former leader. Lee died on Monday, aged 91. At least 17 people died in a hotel attack by Somalia's Al-Shabaab militants in Mogadishu. According to reports, the gunmen were believed to have occupied the third and fourth floors of the hotel. Xi Jinping on Saturday said that China should focus on its economic growth rate alone. He also said that Beijing will never stray from peaceful development during a keynote speech at the opening ceremony of the Boao Forum for Asia. Meanwhile, Chinese leaders have announced an economic growth target of 7% for this year. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry met Iran's Foreign Minister Javad Zarif for nuclear talks in Lausanne, Switzerland. The U.S. put the onus on Iran to make compromises in order to reach an agreement as talk over Tehran's nuclear program reached a critical point. Senior diplomats from Iran and other countries will gather to continue talks into its final stretch to ink a political framework agreement ahead of a March 31st deadline. All right, some sports now, and it will be the biggest day in the history of Trans-Tasman cricketing rivalry when four-time champions Australia will be pitted against a highly committed bunch from New Zealand in the final of the Cricket World Cup. And the final is to be played at the iconic Melbourne Cricket Ground on Sunday. This is the Kiwis' first World Cup final in 11 editions, while Australia are proud owners of 4 trophies. This is Australia's 7th World Cup final since their first in 1975. Now, despite having a talented pool of cricketers, New Zealand has never quite managed to make it. Their only consolation was the Champions Trophy in 2000. The X-factor could be spinner Daniel Vettori, who's quite an experienced campaigner. Martin Guptill has also scored a double century in this World Cup. Australia, on the other hand, have been doing quite well with their pace being spearheaded by Mitchell Starc as well as Mitchell Johnson in good support. Steve Smith has been the discovery for the Australians for this year, and the Australians have had it pretty easy, not had it that easy, but were convincing in the semi-final win over India. That's it from us. Goodbye.